Hi folks, hope you're doing well. Just a quick video. There's a few interesting points to talk about. Yes, UK COVID and the issue of UK's history of fighting against slavery. Why? Well, with the COVID thing, Julie Hartley-Brewer did a program earlier where she was mentioning the fact that the UK apparently are now saying that there'll be COVID measures continuing until the number of cases comes down below a certain level. Even though they're saying they're going to continue to do mass testing, which has got to be a bit concerning. With the situation, as we know, or as some people are aware, that when you do mass testing, you get mass false positives. Now, those false positives are likely to keep us over that minimum number. So therefore, we're likely to see a continuation of COVID measures for at least another year. Well, because next winter we'll have the cases are going to go through the roof again, because obviously people are going to be weakened by the winter, and what happens in winter, the weakest people come down with chesty coughs, and as COVID seems to be the thing that people get rather than flu at the moment, then COVID cases are probably going to go through the roof, especially as we are being told, whether accurately or inaccurately, we don't actually know, that you could have the vaccine, and yet still with the vaccine you could still get COVID, because they don't know at this moment in time whether the vaccine will stop you from getting COVID or will just minimize the effects that COVID will have on you. So at the moment, they don't seem to know very much at all. But she came up with a good point, and so did the person on my first, Andre, God knows what his second name is. Andre something. Andre, what? Andre Walker. He's a communist with possibly the Times, I'm not sure. One of them anyway, but they were talking about it, and talking about the fact where she said, if all these people who are public workers and these people that are nice and comfortable at home and still got their full wage, get to that the school is still educating their children just online now, they get a cushion life and still get all the full pay, they don't care about lockdown. She said, if those people got only 80% of their wage, I'm sure they'd change their mind. And Andre Walker then said, well, actually, do even better. Chop 30% off pension funds. He said all that piety would stop pretty much overnight. I said, yeah, it would. Yeah. But think about it from another slightly more sinister point of view. I did videos years ago concerning this New World Order. And basically their desire, the people who are sort of planning that, their desire is basically to control the people. Well, with COVID and lockdown, they have a way of controlling the people. A way that they, certainly back in, the early 90s, when they first come up with this, when they were talking about this in more detail, they never perceived that you could have a fairly minor virus, really, I mean, is this virus anywhere near as bad as the bubonic plague? No. There's loads of things that this virus isn't as bad as, and we never locked down with those. Bubonic plague, people pretty much voluntarily locked down, didn't they? Pretty much. They didn't want to go out. But it wasn't something that the state ordered. Certainly not until it got incredibly bad, until the bodies landed in the streets and the health situation was so awful. Yet with this, yeah. It's not just locked down a country, it's locked down the whole blinking world, basically. Even countries that have been minimally impacted by it. Yeah. Places like Australia locked down very, very quickly. Stop people coming into their country because they understood that's how it's going to come in. We're not going to have cases here, just coming from nowhere. They're going to come in from people bringing the virus into the country. That's how it's going to come in. So therefore, let's stop people coming in. And they did that. They stopped people coming in. So, it's going to be interesting. What's this space? I would certainly say I think people are going to start to wise up fairly soon. I think the discontent with it is going to increase and increase and increase and increase and increase and increase and increase. It's going to be fascinating. That is a certainty. It's going to be fascinating. We are in very interesting times. That is clear to see. We are indeed. Something also I saw earlier, and for some reason, I don't know why, but there was a video done about 5 years ago. Now, this video was done in response to a Scottish comedian making comments about Britain and how Britain is basically the scourge of the world. And Britain's awful behaviour in the past with regards to slavery and etc., etc., etc. And there was a response made to that. And that response points out the fact that Britain was instrumental in the abolition of slavery. And that's an interesting video to watch. So I'll include that as well, because that's a good one. That is good. That's worth a watch. It does point out a few things. As I say, if you look at it from a more spiritual point of view, you can certainly see God's hand in that, because there were a few things that were going on where leaders of Britain at the time were saying that slavery will be illegal in Britain, and anyone who operates in slavery would have to pay a fine to him, the leader. Now, his motivation was probably to get money. But through that decision, the idea that slavery was abhorrent for Britain and that slavery would be illegal within British lands was really born from that time. And you can see that God may have put the idea into that man's head. Now, a lot of people have said, yes, the UK has had a good relationship with God over the years. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I would certainly say God has used the British Empire to do his will, but that doesn't mean that the British people were righteous in God's eyes. But people have said that maybe that's why Brexit happened, because God wants the UK to be separated from Europe and therefore separated from this new world order. So it's not part of that. But again, yeah, maybe. Don't know. Anything's possible, don't know. There are so many possibilities as to what may happen in the future. We don't know. We really don't know. I mean, with regards to COVID, with regards to lockdowns, all this stuff, we don't know what could happen. We haven't got a clue. Certainly, I mean, one thing is possible. Lawrence Fox has started a political party about getting back power. From this, the wokeism, that sort of stuff. If the UK has elections or local elections in May, there's a good chance his party could do incredibly well, because if people are woken up to the realities of what the Conservative government and the Labour Party have been playing at during this time of COVID and how much fear they've been trying to spread. Well, Julia Hartley-Brewer was talking earlier in the show. I will include her show. It's quite long. It is quite long. It's about 3.5 hours long. But it is worth a look. It's worth a watch, because she talks to all these different people about the situation. You get a good insight, really. She also sometimes has people on that tell their experience of how life has been for them during COVID and during lockdown. And that's interesting as well. Well, I'll pause it here. You've got a person called Mike Hill, the CEO of the Nighttime Industries Association. And even they're speaking there about the fact that it's quite likely that those industries won't actually be open again until summer. But there's talk that maybe people will have to prove that they're COVID-free before they can enter a nightclub or a bar or anything like that. And Julia Hartley-Brewer pointed out quite sensibly that by that time, most people would have had the vaccine. Certainly most people over the age of 35 would have had the vaccine. And the people under that age really aren't going to be massively affected by COVID anyway, really. So the people who are more at risk would have been vaccinated by then. So the government are talking about measures that are completely nonsensical, really. And she makes a lot of sense. She does. She looks at it from the point of view that herself, she's known people that have died from COVID, so she's not a COVID denier. So that's a good position to come from. But she acknowledges that the government has not got it all right. That when they first started this lockdown, it was to protect the NHS. And yet, then it became about something else. Then it became about something else. Then it became about something else. So what is it all about now? Why are we still in lockdown? It's not about protecting the NHS, clearly. So what is it now? Geez, it says here, 1 in 6 people could be on NHS waiting list by April. Ooh. Of course, that's for other treatments, isn't it? Anyone who needs standard treatments aren't going to get it. Yeah, because of COVID, because hospitals have been geared completely towards COVID. So, with that being the case, there's a lot of people dying from that. But she's one of the people who's been questioning the numbers of dead and saying, are these all COVID cases? Because, all these people that went into hospital for various other situations and ended up dying, but ended up catching COVID in hospital. Yeah, they've gone down as a COVID death, even though they didn't die of COVID. She's been one of the people raising this issue and just saying, come on. And we've got to have the truth about this because it's so important, as in the decision making that's going on right now. If you're talking about the deaths and the death rate as the reason why we have to be on lockdown, then we need to be honest about that. We need to know the true story so we can look at it from a position of truth and understanding. And say, right, okay, that's why we're making that decision. The problem is that when you're hiding the truth and you're saying, it doesn't matter that we might have got a lot of these cases wrong, it does. Even these false positives have an impact, because if you're saying to people that, well, all the while we're getting cases, we're going to keep you locked down at least to a certain degree, when people know that there's an issue with false positives, and the cases that could be putting us over that limit could all be false positives, then the government have got to be taking all of that into consideration. They know about the false positives. They've got to take them out of the numbers. So if 30% of positives are false positive, take 30% off. That's of cases. It's not of people in hospital. As she said herself, her Vonda Walker, the priority has to be, how many people in hospital? How many people dying of COVID? Let's get those numbers down. People are dying, people in hospital. Get that number down. Once that number's down, that's what matters. Cases, as in people who may be young, have COVID, but it's not going to affect them, that doesn't matter. People who have now got the vaccine, who may get COVID, but it's not going to do so much damage to them, it doesn't matter. If it's not impacting the NHS, if those people aren't going to die from it, what does it matter? Why should that still be stopping people from living their lives? And these are all fair questions. So I will include her video, and I will include that one about the slave trade and Britain's efforts in dealing with that. You take care. God bless. I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.